Liam, you touched on it before, but I guess between the UK and then the Worlds, there was a lot of expectation on the band. Not only because you won, but there was obviously this new leadership group and a lot of hype around the band. And maybe the band didn't get necessarily the results or the prizes that they expected. So, on the one hand, how do you deal with the expectation of being the front runners at that stage, and then also keeping your head high enough that when you do get a third or a fourth, it doesn't demoralize or derail the rest of the season.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a come down when you win the first major and you come to the next major and you get third. It kind of would be nice to go third to first because you get that sort of build up. You can't expect to win every single major when you turn up to them. Fortunately, though, we've got some very good heads running this whole organization. Kerr is a very good man manager. He's a very good motivator, and he's very good at keeping people motivated, even if things don't always go our way. And we've always sort of said to the season that we just wanted to put a performance on the park that we were very happy with, a performance that we were very proud of. So Aberdeen, the next major, which was the European Championships, we ended up getting third, and then fifth in drumming. We were still reasonably happy how we played as a band, and so that's the first thing we took away with. We were happy with how the band played, and then after that, then it's in the judges' hands as far as the results are concerned, and you can't get too stressed about where you're going to come. If you're happy with how you played, that's the first tick you've got to put on the park. And so we came away with third there, and so we're still pretty happy to be top three. That's still like a really good shout for the band, considering last year they weren't anywhere near the top three. And now the first two majors we had a first and a third. It's quite an achievement for the band. And then moving forward, the major after that was the Scottish Championships, where we ended up coming fourth, which again is like that slight, you're sort of sliding backwards a little bit, and it's not as cool a feeling as sliding forwards. The sliding backwards is definitely the worst feeling, but we're still happy with where the band was sitting and happy with how the band played, and all the little details, like the pipe corps had a really good run at the Scottish Championship, and they were very happy with the placings that they got. And so we knew that the band was still going really well. Weather concerns at the Scottish Championship did hinder us there a little bit. It was a bit of an inclement day, and one of those ones where it's wet 1 minute and then fine and then wet and all over the place really. But what was good was when we came back to North Berwick and we had very good runs at North Berwick, and we knew from then that we were in a shout for the Worlds. Like North Berwick was a really good build up for us for the Worlds.
And Davy, between the second and the third major, there's obviously kind of that period of time where there's not really much going on, and most bands uh, take a bit of a breather in terms of competition and things like that. How did you feel that time? Like, did you do any traveling? Did the band do anything, or
So
was it pretty quick?
the band actually got invited to the Festival de Ortiguera in the
Um,
north of Spain. So Liam and I and a, a smaller band, I think there's 10 pipers, 4 other snares, 5 other tenors in the bass drum, and we all jumped on a plane and we went to Spain for a week. Um, and that was great. There's a lot of great different kinds of music. There are different kinds of bagpiping music in general, really. A lot of Spanish bands, a Breton band. What's the group's name? Rura.
yeah.
Yeah,
Rura played a set there. That was one thing we did, but other than that, yeah, it was quite weird going full on, 2 nights, sometimes 3 nights a week, and then occasional weekends or competitions, and then suddenly there's no practice. It was very weird. Obviously, it gave me a bit more time to actually be at home and do some practice myself. But um, yeah, the trip to Spain was another highlight of the trip. I think it was just great fun, team building. Obviously, as a drum corps, we spent a lot of time together. But as a band, you're not always as mingling quite as much. So it was really good to have, build a couple of friendships in the pipe corps as well, and cement more friendships in the drum corps. Yeah, it was a great time.
And you've touched both of you have touched on it a little bit, but Davey, I'm sort of keen to know, you know, playing in the drum corps for the first time under Kerr in his first season, what are some of the kind of learnings that you got from it? You know, what are some of the things that you took away from playing under him? Potentially different style, but also the way in which he handles, I think Liam mentioned earlier, just sort of the man management side of things. Are there any particular things that you would say you took away from that were going to influence the way in which you play or lead or both?
I don't know if I could put my finger on anything, to be honest. There'd be a lot of things subconsciously, but it's for me, it wasn't. I don't think it was great moments of. It was kind of subconsciously picking things up, and it changed my way of thinking from when I first got there to when I left. But I couldn't really point out the bits where it changed as such. Obviously, I talked to Kerr quite a lot, especially while I was there, and yeah, picking his brains on a lot of things, and got some sit downs with him on some solos material and all sorts. But like, yeah, I couldn't put my finger on specific things, to be honest with you.
No, I guess a lot of the time it's actually sometimes just the vibe that you get,
It's subconscious as well, isn't it? You know, just soak it in.
which is possibly the best way. You know, less talking, more doing, which is a great motto to live by. And Liam, you mentioned Stevie, obviously, but I'm sort of keen on your views on Ross Harvey as pipe major. Obviously, been in the role some time now, but also I guess in terms of potentially Stevie, Ross, or both, what sort of influence do you think they've had on your career or the way in which you play or you approach pipe band music?
I would have to say Stevie McQuillan has been a huge influence on my career as a tenor drummer, especially. He's been my mentor for many years now, and um, he's quite excellent on sort of all things pipe band, really. He tells me, or gives me instructions on how to do things better, and always tries to improve myself as a player. He's always asking me the questions of, what can I do to help the drum corps? How can I improve myself to then, be a bigger asset to the drum corps? And a lot of questions along those lines. I've been quite fortunate though to play under the previous pipe major and the current pipe major as well. And Ross Harvey has a completely different approach to Ross Walker in running the band, and it's quite cool the way that sort of Ross Harvey takes the band, and the feedback that you always get from him, and the way that he sort of talks to the band, and things along those lines. It's quite a nice way that the direction that he sort of runs things. It's very positive. But then Kerr as well. I think that Kerr has got quite an old head on him for someone who's only 19 years old now. It's kind of surreal actually when you start talking to the guy. If you talk to him about anything about drumming, when he's got a drum on, when he's the leading drummer, he is very wise for his years. I don't know where he gets it from. It's probably because he's been around pipe bands for 19 years, and as soon as he was born, he's sort of been walking around a band. So maybe that's where he gets his experience from. But the way he talks, you just sort of feel like you're playing with someone who's far older than they actually are.
Which is incredible, as you say, given he's only just turned 19 as well. So he was an 18-year-old for a lot of the season, and his first gig as a leading drummer in his first season. It's quite an incredible feat.